Okay, good afternoon and welcome to the GRIP information session for the 2022 internships. My name is Christophe Crombez. I'm the interim director of the Europe Center, and I will be leading this session. I will say a few words to begin with and introduce you to a few other people involved in running the program. Then I will turn over the floor to a few of our former interns who will give you some information about their experiences in the past few years. And then the main part of this session will be for the audience to ask questions. So we will have a long Q&A session. So first, the introduction. Well, before all of that, I would like to pass the word to our program administrator, Alyssa Goya, who's also involved in the running of this program and whom you can also turn to when you have questions about practical issues related to the application process and so on. Alyssa wants to say a few words about this session first. Alyssa?
Thanks for that introduction. So hi, everybody. Like Christophe said, my name is Alyssa Goya, and I'm the program administrator at the Europe Center. Just a few little housekeeping notes for you. We are recording the webinar. It will be available on our website, as well as we will send it to all of the folks who did register today. So no stress if you need to duck out early or anything like that. Today, please use the Q&A tool to engage with us. So if you have questions, throw those into the Q&A. We're not utilizing the chat for that purpose. And then if you'd like to utilize the live transcript, we have enabled it. And so you can go ahead and click on live transcript down at the bottom and show subtitle just to be able to see what's happening. And with that, I will turn things back over to Christophe.
All right, thank you, Alyssa, for this practical information. So first, I'd like to say a few words about the program. So the program was set up a few years ago. I was not involved in the setting up, but I will soon give the word to some people who were. The program was set up to foster cooperation between the US and Germany in areas of research, and not just research, but also in terms of industry cooperation and so on. And since then, over the past few years, we've had about 8 to 10 internships each year in Germany that came out of this program. The program has been quite popular with students. We've had between 40 and 60 applications each year. And some of the students who have gone in the past have basically had a company in mind before they applied. They had already sometimes even been in touch with a company or a research institute. Some others did not really have a clear idea about where they were about to work as part of their internship. And for those students, we have helped them out finding a suitable company or research institute to work for. So some of you here today in the audience may be in one situation or another. Some of you may have a company in mind already, some may not. Whatever situation you are in, that's fine. We are ready to deal with you on that basis. Now, a few other things maybe. Let's see, I think I mentioned most of the important things that I was supposed to say, but the next thing I'll do is to introduce you to a couple other people who were here actually involved in the program since the very beginning, and they can add a few comments also if they want to. First, I'd like to introduce you to Antonia Fore, who has been very instrumental in this, all this. Antonia, do you want to add a few things?
Certainly, yes. So I am the GRIP coordinator, which means I will assist you students once you have received an award to either communicate with the host that you have already located that you would ideally be working with for the coming summer. For those of you who have not identified an ideal host, that is a wonderful opportunity to explore the German industrial and academic and research market. This is, as our description on the website says, a program that is very much following the lead of the student. That means we don't plug you into an already existing relationship with industry or academia, but you, the student, take the lead. You come with your research interest and summer project interest that we can define more clearly, or that you already have a very good idea about, and then we very proactively start searching for an internship position. So that is a little bit about how the search process works, and I hope you will have lots of questions. And I stop here and hand it back to Christophe.
Thanks, Antonia. And another person who is very important in this whole process and in this program is Jan Pietzsch. So I would like to give him the opportunity to say a few words. Jan?
Thanks, Christophe.
Jan, I cannot hear you. I don't know.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I hear you.
Apologies. So welcome. Thanks, Christophe. Welcome, everyone. I'm part of the Stanford Club of Germany, which, as you have seen, possibly is co-sponsoring this program or has funded part of the program. We're very grateful for the Europe Center's lead in having accepted this program and moved it forward from the beginning. A few words about the link between Germany and Stanford. You may be aware of the Berlin campus, which has been around since probably 30, 40 years now, and has had a very active undergraduate program funded by the Krupp Foundation, which in total placed over the years more than 1,200 students in industry and research setting after they spent some time at the Berlin Center. And in that spirit of this undergraduate exchange, the club felt it would be useful to have a similar graduate level opportunity to foster the link between Germany and the US. And so this was the nucleus of this existing program. And again, we're very grateful for all that the Europe Center does. And I'm also, in addition to being involved with that club, I'm part of the adjunct faculty of management science and engineering, and in that Stanford related role assisting during the selection process. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Jan. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to give the floor to a few of our former interns. I think we have 5 on our list, and I will just go through them in the order that are mentioned. They are mentioned on the agenda. So that would mean that Anna goes first.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Anna Boch. I just graduated from Stanford with my PhD in sociology this spring. And currently I'm a research scientist at Facebook, where I study freedom of speech issues mainly. And that was what I did my summer internship on as well. So I was in Hamburg in Germany at the Hans Bredow Institute for Media Research. It's now, since 2019, become part of the larger network of Leibniz research institutes. So they're basically, and I think that my experience is a little different than other folks since I'm more on the social science side of things. I was interested in exploring collaborations with the researchers there, working on some of my own materials and getting feedback on them. And I can say that after my experience there, I got one of my dissertation papers published, which was great, and developed some really strong ties with researchers there who, even now in my role at Facebook, sometimes we do external collaborations and partnerships. And so these are folks that I'll have in mind, for a long time to come in case things that would be of interest to them come up. I'll leave it there for now.
All right, thanks, Anna. Next is Sean. I can't hear you, Sean. I still cannot hear you. Okay. we can always get back to you if it doesn't work. Yes. So let's go to Danyal.
Sure. So hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Mohaddes, and I am currently a 6th-year PhD student in mechanical engineering. Specifically, I work on fluid dynamics and combustion. And 2 years ago, so 2 summers ago, I went to the Technical University of Munich to work in the aerospace lab there, specifically in the space propulsion lab. And there I both continued my research on gas turbine combustion and also got to partake and experience some of the research that they were doing in rocket propulsion, in particular some of the experiments that they were doing in that domain. I was there for about 2 months, and something that I really appreciated that I got out of it beyond the technical experience and the, I guess, academic exchanges that I was able to make with the people that were there. I felt that, you know, I was able to integrate quite well into the German working environment and sort of the work culture, specifically their very rigorous holding fast to the work-life balance mantra. So that took a little bit of getting used to, but it was a great experience to learn, you know, a different way of going about the workday, for example.
All right, thank you. Then we have Brandi.
Hi, I'm Brandi. I'm studying material science for my PhD here at Stanford, and I also went in 2019. I studied on the west side of Germany at RWTH Aachen, which is close to Cologne, and I worked at a lab in the university on degrading textile fibers.
All right, Martin.
Hello, I'm Martin Kamme. I'm a 2nd-year master's student in aeronautics and astronautics here at Stanford, concentrating on guidance, navigation, and control. I'm actually a 2021 GRIP cohort. I'm fortunate enough to have a European passport, so I worked remotely in Germany, in Braunschweig, but in another location in Europe. I worked for a small startup in northwestern Germany called Okapi Orbits in Braunschweig that works on space situational awareness and space surveillance and tracking.
All right, thank you. And we can check whether Sean's.
Yeah, I think I'm working now. Can you hear me?
Great, yes.
There we go. Sorry about that. The webcam mic wasn't working. But anyhow, hi everyone. I'm Sean Friedowitz. So I am a former GRIP member in 2019, and also now a former Stanford student. I finished my PhD in material science this past June, and currently I'm working as a software engineer at a local Bay Area startup called Citrine Informatics. But when I did my internship back in 2019, I spent the summer out at Fore University in Berlin, working with a academic researcher, a professor there named Roland Netz, who did computational research in soft matter physics, which is what I did my dissertation on. Really, I mean, the highlight of my trip, the research situation was pretty relaxed there. Roland knew that I was coming with funding from GRIP and was more so, you know, letting me explore research opportunities I wanted to. But I really just had a great time living in Berlin. It's an awesome big city with a ton to do, and I met a ton of awesome people out there. So I highly recommend checking that out as an option if you do end up getting the award.
All right, thank you. All right, now that we've all introduced ourselves and said a few words about the program, I want to open up the meeting for questions from the audience. I have my Q&A box open here, but at this point, there are no questions from the audience. So I would like to encourage you to write down your questions in that box. You can click on the sign at the bottom of your page. Before we do that, I want to point out also that on our webpage, so that's tech.stanford.edu, you can go to the GRIP internship program. And one of the things that you will find there is also a list of frequently asked questions and, of course, the answers to those questions. But anyway, you can at this point ask questions about anything related to the program. If you do not have any questions at this point, I may ask a few questions from the other people present here. Maybe I'll ask our former interns then what advice they would give our current applicants about the application process. What do you think is important to keep in mind in the application process, given your experiences also? Anybody wants to address that?
Sure, I can jump in. So I was really clear about why I wanted to go to Germany. It wasn't just that, oh, I'd like to go live in another country for the summer, but specifically in my case, German laws around free speech are significantly different from the United States. So there was a material interest for me of wanting to get a different perspective on the issue I was studying.
All right. Anybody else wants to add anything to that? In the meantime, there are a couple of questions, so I will get to those. Is there any of the other students from the previous years that wants to say something about this?
Yeah, I have a comment to add in, and I hope this is not contradictory to the application advice, but one experience I had while applying it and also searching for where to spend the summer was that it was actually quite easy to find an internship. I didn't know exactly where I wanted to land, except I thought going to Germany was a very cool idea. And frankly, with the funding and support that GRIP offers you, it was quite easy to email a professor and be like, hey, will you take me for the summer? Most people aren't going to say no to that if you come with external funding. So I encourage everyone to really just shoot out there and don't hesitate to just email people, tell them what you're coming from, tell them the situation with Stanford, and you're probably pretty appealing to them. So it will usually work out.
All right.
Maybe I jump.
Yes, Antonia, there's a question for you anyway about the search process.
All right.
So maybe you can address that, go over the search process again.
All right. As I just want to follow up on what Sean just said.
Sure.
I think he is right in that this was probably not a singular experience, but many students experience that there are lots of opportunities. And so my recommendations to students when they are in the searching process for positions is to gather and collect. And at one point there is a deadline by which we should the student should decide where to go and whom to confirm that they would like to take that internship. But otherwise, it is an amazing learning process that prepares you also for your job search once you graduated from Stanford. So a wonderful opportunity to see what is out there, how this possibility of an internship would fit your academic as well as professional career if you look further down the road. So that just to follow up on Sean. But yeah, with regards to the search process, what we usually do once the students that will receive an internship have been informed and have agreed to accept the internship, I will meet with each one of you individually and we come up with an action plan. That is, I will learn in more detail and listen to you what your ideas are for the coming summer, for the field that you want to focus on, for the project you would like to get engaged in. And then we will collaborate in that some students need more assistance, others not that much. Accordingly, I will be there to either help scan the market, make suggestions where to look further into and actually apply or start a conversation, or if there already exists a connection, to strategize how to either approach that, or I, as I said before, let you take the lead, and that is wonderful. And I just be in the margins or back you up with whatever you would like to do. Once you, and this search process can be quite work intense, time intense. We do set ourselves certain timelines and goals, and we do have our deadline in mind. So I suggest that by the end of April, you do have made a decision where you would like to work, because we will then need also May definitely to clarify logistics and all the practical work. At that point, we will work closely with Alyssa. She is the one, and Shannon, who will assist you in following through all the steps necessary from Stanford to prepare for your study or research visit abroad. And I leave it at that.
Okay. I'm going through the other questions here. There's a few people who are asking questions about whether they can choose the institution, the research institute, or the university, or the company they want to work for, whether they need to mention the institution that they have in mind. So I think that's something we already touched on. Either way is fine in a way. If you don't have a clear idea of the type of or of the institution or the company that you want to work at, that's fine. And then Antonia and others will help you look for a place. If you do have some institution in mind, then I would say do mention it definitely in your application also. And that would be fine also. And that applies whether you are interested in a research position at the university or a research institute, or whether you want to have a position at a company. Related to the application process also, there's another question about what we are really looking for. And I can say a few words, and then maybe Jan and Antonia can add a few things to that. I would say that like for other positions in schools and so on, I think it's important to make clear to us what you would like to do and what your plans are, what type of a position you want, what you want to achieve by doing the internship, why you want to do it in Germany. And what you think you would bring to the company, what your assets are that you would bring to the institute or the company that you would be working for. So I think that's those are some of the important things in your application. I don't know whether Jan or Antonia want to add anything to that.
I think you outlined all of them. From a review perspective, it's always helpful to see that someone sees this as a building step or next step in their career, right? That also might help them if you're, for example, in a PhD program at Stanford, that could complement what you're already doing and what you've done, right? And that might help toward your eventual academic career. Or if you're a master's student, right? I mean, that this is a additional opportunity and stepping stone that is well defined, right? And that helps you really get to what you'd like to do next, right? So seeing this in the context, as Christophe mentioned, is helpful for us.
Antonia?
Yeah, maybe I could actually call on Brandi if you don't feel on the spot. But I think Brandi could exemplify or describe how she started the application process or went into writing an application to us with a pretty clear idea what her academic interests are and her career goals. And here also where she might, what her ideal job might be in the future. I don't know, Brandi, whether that has changed much, but I remember that it impressed us as an interview, during the interview process or the selection committee. And later when we worked together, we were exploring ways how to combine the two or integrate that. Do you want to say a little bit about this?
Sure. Yeah. So I did come in knowing that I wanted to do something in degrading polymer technology, specifically because I wanted to work with sports textiles in the future. And so I had worked with Aachen before, the university, during my undergrad actually, and had kept in contact with some of the researchers there. And so I knew this was kind of the direction that I wanted to push my PhD work and my thesis. And I'm still working on that kind of work. And it was definitely spearheaded by this program and helped convince my professor that this was like something people were interested in. And Antonia is actually not giving herself enough credit during the second half of my journey while I was in Aachen, because my dream job, or one of my dream jobs, is still to work for Adidas. They actually do a lot of research in material science to develop those new foams that are in the bottom of your shoes. And if you guys are as obsessed with Adidas as I am, you know, they have like a lot of sustainability initiatives around what goes into their products. And Antonia is the email master and emailed enough people that one of them responded, and I actually got to present the work that I did during my internship to the director of computing at Adidas at the end of my internship, which was like a dream come true for me. And it was so cool, but it was definitely like 5% me and like 95% Antonia emailing the right people. But it was really cool, and it did show how like Grip and all of the people here are here to help try to get you as many connections as possible and really develop your career. And I actually maintained contact with those people, and I just finished doing a project with them based on what I had presented to them a couple years ago. So yeah, the program is great for doing things on top of just an internship.
Mm-hmm. All right. Is there any of the other former interns who wants to add anything to this discussion?
Danyal, I was wondering whether you could also say a few words in that regard. I mean, you were tempted by two very attractive internship opportunities. You then decided to go to Munich, but you were also very interested in a different company. That was a company, different industrial and different from academia. Could you say a little bit about your decision process, how you approach that, but also for the students attending, that sometimes it's even a tough choice. You have opportunities, you have options, and at one point you have to decide.
That's true, sure. So to be specific, I was choosing between a company, a research institute, and a university. So company being Siemens, research institute being Deutsche Luft- und Raumfahrt, the German space agency, and the Technical University of Munich being the university. And basically I had the choice between being able to work with all three, and to echo the previous comments, Antonia was email master on many levels, making that happen. But in any case, it came down to, had to pick between the three. And ultimately I chose the university option because for myself at the time, I guess I was starting my 4th year at that point. And for myself personally, it made the most sense to work in a university because that was an environment in which I could do something that was the most related to what my dissertation was already focused on. I had the most freedom there, so I could basically just kind of like take ideas from other people and use the experience to drive my research forward, rather than putting my research on hold for 2-3 months, go do something completely different, and then try to pick it back up in September. So for myself at the time, it made the most sense to pick the university route. But I don't think I could have really gone wrong picking any one of them.
All right. There's another question about job opportunities later on, and specifically whether these internships sometimes lead to job offers afterwards. Since I've not been involved in the program for all that long, I don't know what the answer is to that. So maybe Jan and Antonia know anything about this.
Well, we had a student who went to work for the Max Planck Institute, and he was very much at the end of his internship, at the end of his dissertation process. He graduated shortly after having his internship with GRIP and was offered a postdoc position at his host. He accepted that and has been in Munich since the beginning of this year. So yes, you never know, depends where you are at in the process of your academic development. I would definitely say the connections you make during your summer in Germany, as well as during the research during the search process, contacting many different institutes or companies. This is network learning. You never take anything for granted, and you never throw it away. You keep it, and if relevant to you, and entertain and foster those relationships. You never know how beneficial they can be. at a later stage in your life when you are on the job market. So our program is very young, so we just have not had that much experience with regard to students graduating and facing the job market, but I can see a lot of potential there.
All right.
And maybe one more angle, Antonia, right, we could mention is sometimes if there is an international company or corporation, right, even though you do research stint or fellowship or internship in Germany, right, there might be opportunities in the US if that is of interest to you, right? So having worked within a company certainly opens doors, not necessarily limited to Germany, right?
Yes, that is absolutely correct. And maybe for those of you who are thinking, wow, what company would I be interested in? Shannon and Alyssa have listed on our GRIP website on the Europe Center and Freeman Spokely web pages, companies that we are in contact with. These are companies that students have not followed through with, but often have received internship offers from. So we listed them in kind of short version, but if you just want to get an idea of the scope of the network we have established over the last 4 or 5 years, that can give you already an idea how many opportunities are out there and could be either inspiration for you or just helpful in formulating your thoughts more clearly.
Mm-hmm. All right. Then there's a question about language and whether German proficiency is required. German proficiency is not required, but I do think that it's helpful. So, and if you, I would say personally, I don't know whether Antonia and Jan or the former interns agree with that, but I would say that if you spend a certain amount of time, a number of weeks or months in a different country, in this case in Germany, that you definitely benefit from studying that language, even if only a little bit, maybe taking a quarter of German just before you leave, I think would definitely be useful. But I do not think that it is necessary. Most companies are perfectly fine, and definitely research institutes are perfectly fine dealing with you in English. Does anybody else want to add to that?
Maybe if we hear from Martin and Brandi and Anna and Sean,
yes,
and Danyal, how did it work in your cases, and how much German did you speak beforehand, or how much of your active work interactions was in English versus German?
I can speak to that.
Sure.
So I'm fluent in German, and I mean, so that I think enriched my experience quite a bit. But I'm also, keenly aware that had I not spoken a lick of German, I also, would have been okay. It's just, it helps you communicate with people, obviously. I suppose that's obvious, but in ways that you might not, really think about. If you bump into somebody on the street and you want to say, oh, I'm sorry, hey, how's your day going, or something like that, and you don't speak their language, and maybe it's an older person, they don't speak much of your language, then it's sort of an awkward kind of smile and wave situation. And one other specific thing is in working environments. So yeah, in an international company, it might be understood. Companies are usually pretty upfront about it, whether or not this is a German working environment or an English working environment. In a university, it's, a bit more mixed, especially if there are international students around. They usually don't speak German. And so in a university environment, it's usually pretty okay to speak German with, the German colleagues, and then English with the English colleagues. And then there's a lot of kind of mixing in that sense.
All right. Maybe some of the others. Anna?
Sure. I can give the opposite perspective. So I did not speak German. Well, I had Duolingo on my phone. So, coming in with that level of German ability. And while I was there, I did take like private lessons on which you can get over the internet pretty easily, and worked really well for me. I think the guy who was my instructor was like a former teacher at, I don't know, Smith or something. So he was good. And we covered basically like a semester of college level German. So I would say by the end of the summer, I was like an adorable first grader in my level of German. But I, like Danyal was saying, like I could, say Entschuldigung and like say, little niceties. I could order at restaurants. I could pay for things, and that was really helpful because I will say, like, I'm thinking Hamburg, all right, this is a big city. This is, but there were a lot of people who did not speak any English. So it was very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Brandi, do you have any experiences on this to share?
Yeah, I guess my experience was more similar or kind of in the middle because I came in like mostly fluent in German, and my work was entirely in German. So I worked with a technician the entire time, and like he did not speak English. So I learned a lot of technical German words, which was really cool. But like, had I not spoken German, I would not have been able to do the project. So that might be something going in. Like if your project is independent, you might not need to communicate so much with other people. But I would say, especially if you're doing technical work, like you may need to speak German to do some of the jobs. And it also helps so much with just like getting around, making like friends. I had to do some things like with a bank, like you need to be able to speak some German to do some things like that. That being said, especially in bigger cities, or you know what, I've only been in Berlin. In Berlin, you can probably get by really well with not speaking German because it's a super international city. But like Anna was saying, there are a lot of places where people just aren't ready to speak English just because they're not used to it, because everyone in Germany speaks German also. So it definitely helped me. But I also know there were a lot of, because I had worked there before with other students who hadn't spoken German at my university, there are a lot of opportunities where you don't need to speak German, but it may be something you want to look into while you're looking at positions.
All right, Sean?
Yeah, to follow up on what Brandi just said, frankly, nobody in Berlin spoke German. Everyone spoke English, both outside the university I was working at, as well as in the work environment that I was in. So in the research lab I was visiting, all the group meetings, all the other colleagues were all speaking in English, largely because many people were from international areas in other places in Europe. But that all being said, I came in with absolutely, truly zero German knowledge. But when I got this internship, I took a class at Stanford. And that's one of the neat things. If you're a grad student, I think you could take any like undergrad level class totally free. So like, I would recommend that. Just hop in spring to like intro German or whatever. And it's helpful. You learn the basic, niceties. You learn how to kind of order stuff and just read some signs. And that absolutely helps.
Mm-hmm. Martin, I guess you knew German before you went.
No, I didn't actually.
No?
I know Swedish, but I took German 1 during the spring. I didn't really need to take it. I was the only English speaker at my company, but everyone spoke English and they did all the meetings in English. It's nice to have German in my back pocket, but since it was remote, it wasn't really a critical part of my experience.
Okay. All right, a few more questions. Some of them are pretty practical about visa. I don't know exactly how that works, but my guess is that it's taken care of. Who knows the answer to that, the visa application process and so on?
Well, maybe I can say something briefly.
Sure.
So the agreement between Germany or the EU and the US is that if you are an American citizen, there is the Schengen Agreement, which lets you even work in an internship without needing an additional work permit. That was different when we started the program, but in the meantime, these rules have changed, have relaxed. So you as an American citizen would not need to apply for a visa as long as your work situation does not exceed 90 days or 3 months, whichever is longer. And so that is wonderful. We did have a situation where a student wanted to stay longer than the 90 days. And the company was very helpful and generous and helped make it possible for her to stay at least 2 or 3 weeks longer. So she then traveled after her internship. Otherwise, if you are a citizen of a country that does not have that agreement with Germany, then you will need a visa, which, however, we will, kind of realize very soon in, basically with your application. And then Alicia and Shannon will help you with that process. So no worries. We are experienced and we know how to do that in a timely manner, and it has never caused any problem.
All right, thank you. There's another question about the selection statistics. Well, I think in numbers, the rough numbers is basically what I mentioned in the beginning also. In the past, there have been, I think, 40 to 60 applications. There have been 8 to 10 internships. So that basically means that the success ratio, or the acceptance rate, is up to 25%. I would say maybe 15% in some other years. I don't know whether there's any prospects of that being different, the number of positions this year. I think it's probably about the same, Antonia, Jan. Is that right?
Jan, do you want to say something to that?
Yeah, I think, with some flexibility upwards, but there was an organic growth, right? Looking at the numbers over the last couple of years, as you just mentioned, between maybe 8 to 10, right? There's some flexibility probably this coming year, but to be guided, navigated, of course, by tech.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Then there's a question about whether this program is offered every year. The answer to that is yes. Of course, in the past 2 years, we were dealing with the pandemic. So that has, of course, caused some difficulties. And as a result, people had to do their internships remotely. And the 2020 internships were postponed by a year. But we are operating, I would say, under the assumption that this year, we are going to be back to normal. Of course, if that turns out not to be the case, you will find out. We will all find out. Then there's a question about a leave of absence. Do you need to take a leave of absence from Stanford to do the internship? I believe that is not the case. I don't know whether Antonia or any of the former interns wants to say anything about that.
I can actually speak to that. The program is offered during the summer quarter, so students would not be required to take a leave of absence unless their program required some sort of summer quarter enrollment.
That's right. And another question, are there limits on the institutions, companies that you can go to? I don't think there are, as long as they are in Germany, I guess. As far as I know, there are no other limits in that respect. Is that correct?
Well, the internship length is between 8 to 12 weeks. That is up to you and the host to decide. We have not encouraged students, I'm not sure whether I understand the question correctly, but we have not encouraged students to work during the summer at 2 or more host companies. We do have had students or have some currently who are intending to work at a host company that has collaborative relations with another research institute, and that student will then spend 3 of her otherwise 12 weeks at that other institute. But that's a collaborative effort that has been agreed on, so that is definitely possible. What I would suggest, and that goes again more into the direction of Brandi, once you have secured your internship, but there were 2, 3 other ideal positions you thought that you had to decline because you had to decide for one, it is always a good idea to then reach out to these companies. And it's a competitive market. If you decline, then you still stay friends and connected. But then to ask whether you could please come and visit their research situation, their lab, and inform yourself a little bit more by maybe a one-day visit or a weekend or 2-day visits. what this other internship would have been about or what they do, I absolutely encourage that. And this has always been very beneficial to the student and maybe even has some future impact. I hope that answers the question.
All right.
I think one more thought, just from past experience, sometimes there were scientific conferences that were in the field, right, of that student. And so they managed to not only do the internship, but also combine it with a attendance or presentation at a meeting in Germany or Europe during that time. So that might be another opportunity.
Yes, and I can add to that we have multiple students whose research during the summer with an CRIP internship then led to publications that they then generously also mentioned us as an enabler, which we always welcome. But yes, so these research visits can lead to many different further opportunities or just wonderful outcomes that you don't even envision at this point.
All right. Then we have a question about the number of times one can apply. So there's a student who's asking about applying and then possibly facing a situation where he or she would have to decline because of another summer opportunity or a summer rotation, as they refer to. Is there a limit on the number of applications? I think there's no limit on the number of times you can apply. But of course, I mean, if you turn down an application, of course, we wouldn't understand. But I think that at some point, if there's a number of declines, that people will take your application less seriously. Is that a good way to respond to it, Jan? I see Jan is nodding. So there is no official limit on the number of times you can apply. And we would have some understanding, of course, but I think there's also limits to that in practice, even if there's formally not a limit. All right, I see no other questions in the Q&A box. And it's been about 50 minutes or so, so we're almost at the end of our meeting. I would just like to ask the other panelists, Jan and Antonia, and also Alyssa, and the students from the previous years, whether they would like to add anything to what we've said or make some concluding remarks regarding their experience and regarding the application process or whatever. Danyal, do you want to add anything in conclusion? Or
Sure. Keep your weekends free so you can travel a bit.
Okay, all right, that's good advice. Sean?
Sorry, what was the question?
Whether you would like to say give some concluding advice or whatever, or for the students, for their application or for their time in Germany, anything you would like to say in conclusion?
Oh, I wholeheartedly second Daniel's comment, which is go travel, go explore, go do things that you normally wouldn't do. And usually, at least in Germany, people take longer vacations than here in the US. So you will likely be encouraged to go spend some time to travel and hang out.
Mm-hmm. All right, Martin?
Since you'll be coming with funding, you don't have to push for the really big companies like Airbus and BMW. There are a lot of really cool startups that don't have a lot of money. But since you're coming with money, aim for those, and they're more likely to respond as well anyway.
All right, Brandi?
I don't really have anything on top of what they said. You can travel, which is fun because in Germany, some people were like, oh, it's too far. It's like a 4-hour train ride, but you can get to like Paris in like a 4-hour train ride from some parts of Germany. So definitely travel.
Okay. Jan?
Yeah, absolutely agree about that. And high-speed trains, which is great to use, right? Even within Germany, whether you're in Berlin, right, you can see Munich over the weekend, or do take advantage of many of the low-cost flights also across Europe, right? if it's environmentally acceptable for everyone. But yeah, I just wanted to mention it's great to see so much interest in this program, and hope you find this of interest, and if so, that you take it as an opportunity and apply to the program. Also wanted to mention there is a alumni base in Germany of around 600 former Stanford alums, and that's another opportunity or resource to tap into, right? So everyone, I think, who has been at Stanford is happy to help others from Stanford, and so there's certainly a network that already exists that you can also tap into, and Antonia has a lot of connections there as well.
Mm-hmm. Antonia?
Yeah, I can only repeat what others said in terms of the travel experience. I'm not just there to help you find your ideal internship position, but I'm also there to help you if you want to get from A to B and you don't know how, or if you need ideas where to travel to or with whom. As Jan said, we are very well connected with the Stanford alumni community abroad in Germany or even other European countries. According to your needs and wishes, I have no problem connecting you with alumni who would love to meet you for coffee, dinner, or adopt you in whatever way. We are a very close-knit family there. One student, for example, went in Berlin to the 4th of July party that the Stanford German Association organized at the Bierbrauerei in Prenzlauer Berg. Other students have benefited lots from just meeting other young Stanford students that are currently working abroad, not linked to GRIP, but because we have the alumni network, we can find those out. And yeah, so there is a lot. And with regard to learning German, there too, we have a list of recommendations how you can approach that topic, whether you can take a class or whether you want to do Duolingo or whatever. And but careful, as soon as I notice that your German is getting better, I will probably switch my communication to German. And then along the way, however, would also help you and have in the past help you to, if your interview is also conducted in German, prep for that. And so I definitely encourage this. So otherwise, concluding from my side, I'm excited already to read your application, put your heart in, convince us that this coming summer, you want to be in Germany and you have some ideas what you want to do. And we would love to, I would love to work with you.
Mm-hmm. All right. In the meantime, I see there's a couple more questions. I'll quickly address those. Does it matter whether one has already spent time in Germany? I would say no. I would say if you have, you can mention that, of course, in your application, but it doesn't necessarily give you an advantage or a disadvantage, I would say. And then there's a question about freshmen and whether they what they have to do with respect to the letter of recommendation from a faculty member. It may be more difficult. I would say, well, try to maybe talk to one of your professors that you're taking a class from this quarter. And otherwise, I would say that you could also mention another person, maybe from high school or so, who would be a good reference. Is that a good answer?
So in response to the question about a letter of recommendation, we do not require a letter of recommendation. Right. Mm-hmm. We do ask that you list a recommender or an advisor as somebody that could be a reference, but they do not need to write a letter.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So, but first years can, if they don't have a good relationship developed with a faculty member, can they list somebody else?
It should be somebody from Stanford. So hopefully you have at least an advisor who's assigned to you or one of your faculty from this quarter. And again, if this is a personal question or you're really having a challenge with this, please feel free to reach out and we can work with you.
Maybe I can add that we did have a situation where someone felt very uncomfortable, especially during COVID, they have not even met their assigned advisor, first year PhD student. So we gladly accepted a reference to his undergraduate institution, and that worked just fine. So no worries. COVID is, has put us all in other situations, but we can deal with it, and we're open to work with you.
I gave an answer that was more appropriate for undergrads. I forgot for a second that I was talking to graduate students. I guess I've been involved in the undergraduate internship program for so long that I forgot I was talking to graduate students. But anyway, so yes, your advisor, and if you're in a special situation that you cannot come up with a person like that, your undergraduate advisor, not your high school advisor, would be a good person to turn to. But please let us know if that is the case. Well, thank you very much, all of you, for attending. And I want to thank the other panelists for participating in this session and in the Q&A. I want to thank all of the students for being here and for the interest in the program. I do hope that you all apply, and together with Jan and Antonia, I look forward to reading your applications and to having the interviews in January. In the meantime, if you have any more questions, you know how to reach us. You can go to the Europe Center's website and find our emails there, and reach out to us if you have any more questions. So thank you very much, and we will be in touch later. Bye-bye.